Here we go. Time for another art explainer video. But with coffee. Must have the coffee. Okay. Welcome to Artist at Law, where I draw and talk about law, as well as philosophy and worldviews and all that jazz. So a colleague was chatting with me about using visuals to explain how all systems are connected, specifically natural systems and human systems. And this made me want to do a huge wall mural to give a massive overview of basically the entire world, which is almost impossible to capture on this paper. So this is a preparatory doodle of what that could look like on a massive wall. And it's basically my design for the largest wall mural artsy infograph. Anyway, the basic concept is that the global ecosystem is made up of many smaller ecosystems and cycles. And this includes cycles like time, in terms of seasons and days, as well as the water cycle and deep ocean currents, and how all of that is connected to our human systems, like the legal system and our food systems. So, for example, the water cycle moves evaporated water from the ocean all over the earth. It rains down on pretty much every ecosystem. Granted, there are a few with very little rain. But if we look at snowy mountain peaks, for example, that water came from the ocean in snow form, and eventually it melts and forms rivers, which, on their way winding back to the ocean, create a variety of riparian habitats. They connect meadows and forests and create estuaries and deltas and support beach formation. And all of these other ecosystems are connected by more than water and rivers. There's the seasonal migration of all kinds of species, and even something as simple as whale poop can move nutrients from deep ocean waters to shallow waters, and that's a huge support system for phytoplankton and zooplankton, which form the basis of the food web in the ocean. And of course, ecosystems are held together by keystone species, which are like the glue, right? Without a keystone species, a whole ecosystem can collapse. And when we're looking at ecosystems in this way and seeing how the existence of life supports other life and more life, it's kind of hard to escape the idea that ecosystems are life support systems. And it's this grand web of cycles and systems and individual species and populations and habitats that make life what it is today, including our own life. Even relationships between two species, right, mutually beneficial symbiotic relationships, can have a huge impact on an entire ecosystem, like the mycelium network in the soil, which fixes nitrogen and connects tree roots and basically makes the forest habitat possible and home to countless other species. But so, why should humans care? Why should we care about these ecosystems that maybe we never even visit? Well, to the right side of this drawing are the human systems. And you can see how once we have our basic needs met, like food and shelter, we start forming complex societies that make these human systems possible. Now, society is essentially built on ideas, many of which do not exist outside our minds. Now, we do bring some of our ideas into physical form. We literally build infrastructure like roads and sewage systems and supply utilities like water and electricity. But a lot of things about human society are just in our heads, and that's where they stay. The law is a really good example of this. We made it up. It does not exist outside our minds, and it is something that we can and do change regularly. although slowly, depending on the time scale we're considering. But the reason ideas are so powerful is because we decide that they are a basis for action. And when ideas conflict, one either gets defeated or absorbed by another. Now, we're used to this conceptually in our daily lives and from a historical perspective, though we may not have always thought of it that way. For example, if you're at work and everybody's brainstorming ideas on how to achieve a goal, you're probably not going to use every idea, right? Some ideas will not be used at all. We could call that defeat. And other ideas will be absorbed together. And that's how you plan your project or whatever. And historically, colonization, that gave us international and domestic law today, because it was the ideology and worldviews of the colonizers that defeated the colonized and created law, especially during the political decolonization process. Not that that's over. And of course, the resistance continues to this day. But here's the important bit. What most lawyers, politicians, and people in power miss is that unlike human laws, nature's laws cannot be changed at a conference. The laws of nature are not an ideology. They just are. We cannot control them, change them, or defeat them. Essentially, we have to accept that we live in a very complex system with countless inputs and outputs and variables, right? That's why we call them ecosystems. Now, everything we have comes from these systems. Even things we consider man-made. Where did we get the materials for it? Mars? Nope. Came from this planet. Our cell phones came from this planet. And it's easy to forget this when we think of nature as something over there that we experience when we go over there, right? Especially if we live in big cities. And so sometimes it's easy to think that, advances in technology will save us from our environmental crisis. Not really the case, right? Because technology is just stuff we took from nature. So what we're really saying is nature will save us. And as soon as we recognize that, we can realize that we are a species living in nature, and defending and respecting the habitat in which we live is inextricably linked to our wildest dreams of a better future. We are nature defending itself. Preserving ecosystems is preserving our life systems. I would love to do more illustrations. Please vote in the comments of what connections you would like to see next. Thanks for watching.